Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Windows on the World. It's Friday night. Why aren't you all down the pub? Well, we're going to be talking about the reasons why we are getting nowhere tonight. We've done quite a few shows recently on this subject, and indeed over the past 10 years. And we're going to be talking a bit about that, about the governance system that we're actually under, not the system that people still think that we're under. There's a big difference. The way we're being governed now is completely different to the way people think we are being governed. And it has been a recurring theme in many of our shows because most people in this country still don't know how we're governed. Very few actually look into this. We're in a communitarian system, which is basically run under a technocratic system. So we are in a totalitarian system, which is run as community. And the whole point of this show and our last show with Casey Whalen in Idaho, that's North Idaho Exposed on YouTube. Casey Whalen was talking about people's rights, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, and how we can maybe bring that into local areas, because this is a global to local action plan. And it revolves around a community. And the community that it revolves around at the moment is the one that's being imposed on you by your own consent. So, yeah, we're going to be talking a bit about that tonight. I've got some notes here. I've got a very special guest who's cutting edge and hopefully will help me cut the hedge of reality tonight. But there's an article that goes with this show. It's called Empower Your Community. So do have a look at that. It's linked underneath this show, which is streaming on YouTube and windowsontheworld.net. The article, scroll down to articles, it's called Empower Your Community, and it links to several other articles. One's called What is Communitarianism? Now, the reason I keep banging on about this word is nobody else is talking about it. And the big society that came out of 2010, David Cameron, is all about the system which we are now in. That system was brought in with change agents being put into your local council and all public office. They are trained in the public and private sector through organizations such as Unlimited. At the time, we had things like Locality, Intentionality, and Power to Change, which is an umbrella organization. We have people who are imposing this through charitable organizations and NGOs. And go back into our archive, look at an article called Big Society Change Agents. I keep sending it to people in Waltham Forest and Enfield and places like that, where the actual real Agenda 21 stuff with the traffic implementation of basically no traffic and empowerment of cyclists all happen. So do have a look at that. Don't really want to go into that stuff tonight. But yeah, let's ask a few questions first, because this is accompanying an article. And the article that we're going to refer to, first of all, is called What is Communitarianism, which is in another article called Empower Your Community. So look at Empower Your Community, and that's what we're going to be talking about. How do you take back the narrative of control from the local government? Because you are the local government. That's the whole point of this system. You are the local government. So the system, what is communitarianism? Let's have a look. It was a term that originated in the 19th century. And let's get the proper definition. A member of a community formed to put into practice communistic or socialistic theories. Okay, that was in the 19th century. Webster's dictionary in America changed that definition in 1909 to mean of pertaining to or characteristic of a community. Now, can you see what the problem is here? Can you see what's happened from the description of a community or pertaining to a community? It was previously about communism. So basically, when people say that we're in a communistic system, they're right, but it's run as a community empowerment system. In other words, you're made to feel that you are empowered. You are part of the vibrant community. Of course, you're not. Only the people who are gatekeeping it are part of that. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about local government, protests, or whatever you want to be doing. Everything is controlled in a communitarian way, which is why everything we do has to be unaffiliated. We can't be affiliated with any group whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that we do or do not support any other group. You have to be very ambiguous with what's going on here, because you will get dragged into being far right, all the usual stuff that they call you, a Nazi and a fascist whenever they want to. You're a denier as well. What are you denying this week? But yeah, Webster's changed the definition in 1909 to mean of pertaining to or characteristic of a community. So hopefully you can all hear me out there, because I am in the middle of nowhere and I do get problems with my reception. I've had several phone calls today and I can't even hear what people are saying when they're phoning me. I have to keep phoning back. So hopefully you can hear me out there. Now, Amitai Etzioni, literally translated as friend of Zion. He was born actually as Werner Falk. That's Amitai Etzioni. He actually instructs people around the world in academic institutions on communitarianism. Now, the people behind all this are not usually to be seen in public. Okay, that is a very important thing. So Amitai Etzioni calls this the responsive community, and recognize that communitarian ideas can be found throughout history. Although, of course, the term was coined by John Goodwin Barnby in 1841. And John Goodwin Barnby, who came up with the term communitarianism, based originally on community, then basically communism, and later to be a part of a community. John Goodwin Barnby founded the Universal Communitarian Association, and also, this is really interesting, the London Communist Propaganda Society. Our little alarm bell's starting to go off. Excellent. That was in 1841. So he coined the term communitarianism in 1841, but at the same time, he was part of the London Communist Propaganda Society. He founded it, in fact, the London Communist Propaganda Society. So when we look at communist propaganda and the activities of the KGB and their massive brainwashing program, it comes as no surprise when we find out that this is a totalitarian system run as community. It's meant to be from the bottom up, but really it's, guess what, from the top down. It is a system where individual rights are sacrificed for, yes, the common good. Whenever you engage with a public official, they will say, well, your rights, your individual rights are usurped by the rights of the group or community under the term of the common good. And we hear that in document after document. I've seen it in several documents recently, but it doesn't mean you can't turn this around. And that's what these shows over the next couple of weeks, and indeed this one tonight, are all going to be about. But the community can be a self-defined pressure group. Does this start to make any sense? It means that you can be a self-defined pressure group. So your group is the community. You define your group as the community. When I've been attacked by communitarians in the past, they define themselves as the community, and you're the outsider. You're the extremist. You're the hate-filled propagandist. You're the fascist. You're the Nazi. You're the denier. They're the community. That's how it works. So what you do is turn it around and you become the community. You are the community. That's the whole point. Non-government organizations and public-facing organizations control the narrative. They train these change agents and future leaders. All the leaders in local government and national government have been trained. There is nobody who is there who got there through ability. None of them. That's why they are all incompetent. Look at Matt Hancock. Look at these people in your local council. Look at your MP. 99% of them are change agents. The 1% that aren't are drowned out by the 99% that are. That's how it works. So it dovetails into the climate change agenda. COVID-19 is merely a driver of global governance, as we have seen. The UN Sustainable Development Goals. We've done many shows on this, of course, on the radio, in the archive. Do listen to our Sunday shows. Yes, 9:30 p.m. every Sunday. The governance system we live under is communitarian. In reality, a totalitarian system run as a technocracy under the banner of global community. global to local. I'm going to give you a quote now from Robert Halfon, a Conservative MP, the Conservative MP for Harlow in Essex. And he said recently, on the vast majority of issues, he votes the same as other Conservative MPs. However, he differs in certain ways, such as he voted against an investigation into the Iraq war, whilst most Conservative MPs voted for that. Robert Halfon is a friend of Israel, Conservative Friends of Israel, and he's a communitarian. Listen to this quote, because this is what I've been talking about for a long time. You very rarely hear a communitarian talking about it in public. This is from a recent interview with Robert Halfon, the Conservative MP for Harlow. Politically, he says, it has meant that David Cameron's big society has come to fruition. What I've been talking about for the past 10 years. The big society is where this started, the change agents being trained in the public and private sector and put into your local community. I started engaging with these people. They are intolerant. They know that they can be audacious, and often communitarians are above the law because it dovetails into community policing, and community policing is about the common good. In other words, if you are deemed to be outside the community, which is the hive mind, which is totalitarianism, then you are deemed an enemy of the community. Does that make sense? That's why you will not get remedy in court. Most judges in the UK are working under this principle. I have had massive experiences of this over the past 10 years. It doesn't mean you can't win court cases, but what it does mean is you have to understand the system you're in. You cannot go back to previous systems of law. The communitarian law system deems you to be an enemy of the state, and the common good is for the benefit of all. That's why a judge will say things such as, it's not in the public interest. It's not in the public's interest for them to know about the corruption that you're going to expose. That's what the public interest means. So let's get back to this quote. I digressed. Politically, it has meant that David Cameron's big society has come to fruition 10 years after he coined the phrase. Well, it wasn't him that coined the phrase. It was coined for him. Big difference. Everywhere we look, we see communitarianism flourishing. What we as Conservatives or Labour, it really doesn't matter, because this is not left or right. It's got nothing to do with it. Communitarianism is the system that runs both parties and the ones in the middle. What we as Conservatives have to do, or let's say what we as communitarians have to do, is show that we care about social capital as much as economic capital. And we have to find a range of policies that will build up social capital and address social injustice in our country. Now, what he's saying there, and paraphrasing, is exactly what I've been talking about for the past 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, so the cavalry are not going to come. Standing under Magna Carta and saying the words common law together at the same time, common and law, is not going to do you any good. If you don't understand this system, you won't be able to use common law. Very, very simple. So the point we're trying to get to tonight is how we take things forward. The global health security system. We've got these vaccines coming in. I've looked at it all. Many of you already have. This is an untested technology. It is a technology. We're in a technocratic system. The global health security system is being imposed under corporate jurisdiction. It's a buyout. Of course, we just found out that Bill and Melinda Gates now fund the MHRA. They've given them quite a lot of money, actually, if you want to look at that. But the vaccine that's going to be rolled out is untested, and the process of testing doesn't finish until January 2023. So I'm going to bring in my guest now, Susie, and we're going to talk a bit about this system and what we can do about it. Our last show with Casey Whalen really does get into how we can take this back at a local level. I've always said that the key to this is the globalists work at a local level. The Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals are implemented through your local council. These are the people we have to make accountable. Okay, so I'm going to bring in Susie now, and hopefully the streaming will cope with it all. Hiya, Susie.
Hi. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right. You might have to repeat a few things to me, and I will duck out of the conversation when you're talking to save a bit of bandwidth. I'm in very primitive kind of Luddite spectrum here. maybe that's the way to go, though. I'm fighting technocracy in my own way. But yes, you heard that opening salvo, Susie, and I believe that you've also got in touch with Casey Whalen of peoplesrights.org, which is incidentally banned on Facebook. You know you're getting somewhere when you're banned on Facebook. In other words, all of this rubbish that we see on Facebook about let's lock up the MPs or let's stand under Magna Carta to keep our shops open is there for a very good reason, because it doesn't work. So, Susie, yes, we've been talking a bit about this. Let's get into what the World Economic Forum calls strategic intelligence.
Well, I don't think it's got much to do with the Magna Carta anymore. And anyone who watched my show last week or whenever it was will know my opinion on what's going on with the arresting of the MPs, or rather not. I haven't seen any MPs get arrested. I don't know if anyone else has, or Matt Hancock, as he's supposed to have been as well. So yes, I was just communicating with Casey by email just before we came on air just then, and I'm going to be speaking to him in the next week, and hopefully we're all going to have a conversation towards the end of next week together. So to talk about what he's doing over there, it's really fantastic, and it's what we need to be doing all over the world. But starting off in my little world here, I'd like to get it going here. So www.peoplesrights.org, and it's very interesting. If you would all please go and have a look at his website, it's really excellent. So he says, who would you call right now if you needed help protecting your rights? So we need to start with that, with your rights, because I think the good people of Britain need to recognise that you do have rights. You still have rights. A lot of people are just lying down and going, oh, we don't have any rights anymore because there's a pandemic. Well, the pandemic's all just a scamdemic anyway. And as you've rightly pointed out, Mark, this is about technocrats taking over and taking over our complete autonomy. These vaccines are just insane. I just had a conversation with a chap in the shop there. He said, oh, yeah, I'd be happy to take the vaccine. I'm just vaccinating against what exactly? What is it we've got to be scared of? There's nothing to be scared of, is there? Unless you're very vulnerable and got some immune problems, in which case you'd be scared of any kind of flu. So going back to the people's rights, Mark, sorry, I'm waffling. But this talk about fact one.
No, you're doing well. And somebody's just said, Susie, yeah. Did you hear me? Yeah, somebody's just said, yeah. Hi, Susie, pocket dynamite. There you go, your pocket dynamite.
Oh, great stuff. Yeah, that's what we need. I was tempted on the 5th of November, I can tell you. I was very tempted. Anyway, so fact one on Casey's website there, it says the responsibility to defend you and your family rests upon you. This is something that the good people of Britain seem to have forgotten. You know, we have been getting slowly. It's not people's faults. You know, we've got highly intelligent, rational people who have like a tap being filled by drip. Everyone's been getting slowly trained and cajoled into giving up their rights and giving up things to be looked after. You know, like a child. And we have a problem with that, and we need to get that back. We need to rein all that back in. And fact two, that you have a duty to assist your neighbours in defending all rights together, folks. Come on, unite. Let's unite, not fight, unite. You know, I spoke recently that I had a problem here myself. I had a man walk in here, he attacked me, he punched me. I had no protection whatsoever from the police. This man is an informer. I outed him for being an informer, hence he came and attacked me. He's threatened my life. I've got no protection whatsoever. What did the neighbours do? They looked the other way. That's what they did.
Right. I wanted to come in with a point here, Susie. This is very important. This is called communitarian policing, okay? Mm-hmm. Police informers are actively supported by the police, and it's very difficult with this new form of policing to actually get past that. Also, what I would say is that rather than having your energy harvested why don't you start using your energy the way that the system is using your energy? In other words, you give your energy to things that matter. Give your energy to what matters. Small local issues, even things like mask mandates, can be overturned. Now, an interesting point I wanted to make is that a friend of mine who's going to come on the show very soon when she's better was in hospital recently. And what's happened is that they said that face masks, not coverings, are mandatory and there are no exceptions. What's very interesting is when the trust was challenged, the hospital trust was challenged about this, they backed down almost immediately from one person. One person made that review happen. Okay. Now, these councils and the police, I'm telling you, are petrified of this kind of community action. They are petrified of it, because if the communitarians take over your property, the police will assist them. This is a fact, right? And it's coming to your door. It's coming to your house. This is going to happen. The only way you're going to save your property is to have an orderly community of people who will be there. And that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, this country is infiltrated and gone. Because I've seen the infiltration. Everything is infiltrated. It doesn't matter whether it's your protest, whether it's your council meeting, whether it's community group. You have to have very certain parameters that you're going to work in, and you have to be able to get rid of people who come in as agitators. This has happened to a friend of mine recently. I'm not going to say where it is because she's going to come on the show soon to talk about it. Somebody, a new narcissist in the so-called truther movement, has tried to divide and rule their group, starting whispering campaigns amongst them. They wouldn't have it. Guess why? Because they are the group. If your group allows itself to be infiltrated, if you allow yourself to be infiltrated, forget it. You're a communitarian and that's it. Back to you, Susie.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we need to do. We need to get people on board. So if people can look at the People's Rights campaign, what they're doing over there, it's really great. So people have got a number, and if they've got a problem, for example. So, I mean, you're talking about the mask mandate. Let's talk about my daughter's college, where we're challenging them at the moment, where they're saying if you are exempt from wearing a mask, you must wear a lanyard. They've actually sent me a letter saying I'm not allowed in the building to even talk to any of my teachers, Tallulah's teachers, unless I wear a label saying that I'm exempt. And the same with my daughter and anyone else who's in the college that's exempt. They have to wear a label to say, otherwise they will be harassed. And they're actively saying that. So we are challenging that at the moment. And I have got a little group of people who are quite willing. They did come with me last time. We did get somewhere with them because there was quite a few of us. We went to the college. We didn't leave. We were quite peaceful. But we just spoke quite clearly to the vice principal and explained that they were breaking the Equalities 2010 Act. So we are doing that. And it's interesting what you say about the infiltration, because I have seen a lot of groups that get started up, and they seem to get started up with the real intention seems to be to not do anything. That's very interesting, that one. With regard to the protests, so yes, the protests are very good
for Susie. Yeah.
They're very good for a good jolly and for networking and for that feel-good feeling, but what is actually coming from them, well, we have got the negative side things that are coming from them, that we're seeing a lot of people being brutalized by the police, and that's putting people down, it's putting people in the wrong position. But what Cassie's doing is, you text someone. So I know quite a few shops, for example, in Totnes that really did want to stay open. And if they knew that had they stayed open and they'd had some police come round, or they'd had some problem, they'd had challenges, if they could have texted a number and 20 or 30 people would come and physically support them in a peaceful, polite way, but just to peacefully stand their ground, perhaps go into the shop, start buying things, just start shopping, just general stuff. This is very powerful. This is, as you say, a real community at work, rather than communitarianism, community really at work, and taking back the power, our power.
Well, it is about, it's about usurping it. You have to usurp it, right? We're talking about infiltration here. So what you need to do is remember, I think, that everything is an infiltration process. So society is an infiltration process. Now, there's a lot of people in chat there saying, I don't talk to my neighbours, they're all nuts, they go out banging pans. We're not talking about them. They'll always do the same. It takes a small group of committed people to do something who stand together. And what you need for that is a common cause, a common aim. And that is in that article that I put out tonight. It's in that article, which is called Empower Your Community. I just did it before the show, right? Now, the point is this. I'm going to give you some examples now, yeah? What we hear is things like collective action, citizens action program, direct action, community action group, grassroots. This is all crap. This is communitarianism. That's what they call it, okay? What you do is you have a group that has no name, that cannot be defined. So it has no definition and no name for a start. The community organizer then appears. All these people who are leading these activist groups in the UK are useless. The reason I know this is because we've had since June now, and they've achieved nothing. Not one thing. Nothing has been achieved. These are facts, I'm afraid. And I haven't got time to really keep waffling on about stuff anymore, because the whole point of these shows now is to point out how this is being implemented, which we've been doing for years, but more importantly, what to do about it. So the community organizers and these trained change agents, have a look at the show we did, COVID protest social engineers. But have a look at the article on Windows on the World more than the show, because you will see in that article how groups are taken over, how venues are taken over. I'm saying that what's going to happen over the next 6 months in the UK is venues are going to start being taken over, and property developers are going to be behind this because they're going to make a killing. So all of these people are going out of business, may well have their property taken off them. Yeah. So they need to start acting like these community leaders. What you need to do is get your community leader in place. I'm not talking about someone who's going to go out and waffle at protests and go choose your side. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they have a definite aim. They have an aim of what you're going to do locally. What is it? Oh, do you want to stop the wearing of masks in local shops or something like that? All this stuff sounds banal, but wait a minute. The point is, once you have a victory, it empowers the group. This is what the whole of the Sollalinsky rules were about. The Sollalinsky rules underpin the big society. Look at Sollalinsky. Look at what he did. Read Rules for Radicals. That's what they're using against you. Once you understand these principles, you can use them. If you don't understand them, it's going to go over your head and you're going to go, I'm standing under common law. It doesn't mean a damn thing because you don't know how you're being governed. But once the people have united behind the cause, the leader can slip into the background. That's how they do it. And they delegate to their facilitators. Okay. The template is very simple. Find a common symbol to unite the community. This is what Sollalinsky did. What you need to do is, if you're going to get a group, you need a common symbol that unites them. Now, what he was doing was very subversive. He was finding, like, what do poor people gravitate towards? What do poor people hate? Let's go for those as the target. Let's use them to empower the group, to steer the group. This is how you're being steered, except that being steered on global issues now, like climate change and COVID-19. These are just ways to steer you into giving your consent. That's all it is. The climate change agenda, the current pandemic strategy, makes mankind the enemy of itself. Therefore, all imposed rules are for the common good. So that's what I'm saying. They basically silence all opposition. They silence opposition through fear. They find easy derogatory phrases. What I've done with this article is I've written it down very, very simply as to how this works to try and explain it, because I'm trying to paraphrase what the big society is about. If you want to have a look at this, go to Big Society Change Agents at windowsontheworld.net. There's a lot of links there. Some of those links now are broken because the article's years old, but it means that the change agents have taken them off, but most of them are still there. Yeah, easy derogatory phrases. Yeah, fascist, Nazi, white supremacist, far right, anti-vax. You're an anti-vaxxer now, you see. No, I'm not. I'm actually somebody who's looking at the facts and weighing them up, which is rather different. Exploit shared differences. This is what they do. They exploit the shared differences that people have. A clearly defined enemy. So, in other words, your group needs to have a common aim and a common enemy. This is how all group dynamics work. So, what's your common aim? What's your common enemy? Is it those people in your local council who are telling you what to do, who are taking your money? It could well be. Define then what you want them to do and steer them into the intended outcome. And that takes pressure and it takes a bit of guts. But I'll tell you what's funny about it. When you start doing it, you know what happens? They get scared. They back off. They might not want to write to you again. Doesn't matter. Keep going. And you keep pressuring them. And you get outside those council buildings like they're doing in America. You get outside there. And the thing is, in this country, people don't realize where the power is coming from.
No.
Anyone who thinks it's coming from this government is having a laugh. Those people in the parliament there now know they have nothing to do with governing this country. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. None of them know ultimately where this is coming from. Most of them have been bought off. If you look at the amount of money Bill and Melinda Gates have given to these organizations that are pushing this, we've gone into it for 6 months. We don't need to talk about it anymore. But yes, the exploitation of shared difference is very important. Unity of community. Direct action equals a series of already established goals that are seemingly achieved, right? So basically, you start off, there's a conflict. Then you defeat the common enemy. That's a victory that empowers the community for further action. So you need to have a series of goals that you stick to. Once you've achieved a goal, you move on to the next one. You don't just go out every Saturday shouting freedom. That is a complete and utter pointless waste of time. That is energy harvesting by the state, a complete and utter waste of time. Because for one thing, in this country, you never had freedom. Anyone who's born and is walking around in this country never had freedom. They were given liberty to do certain things. Freedom is in the mind. Freedom is a mental state. It's nothing to do with what the state grants you. And that's really what this is about. The masses join side and demonize all outside the new narrative. Now, this is a very difficult thing to deal with in communitarianism because it means your group can be demonized. But what you have to do then is take the moral high ground. Does any of this make sense, Susie? I'll bring you back in.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, haven't we? And it does make a lot of sense. I mean, we've all been watching what's gone on with the protests, and we can see, as you say, unfortunately, things are changing, but not for the better in a lot of places. But there are some successes. There are some small successes, and as you say, we have to focus on them and work on them. And I'm sure I'm going to have my own success very soon with the college. I'm quite sure of that. I would like to bring up with you as well about the Noahide laws, Mark. I don't know if I'm moving on too quickly from this, but
it's something that is very important within this system that we're in, and something that people don't understand. I'd rather go into the details of it in a future show, but a lot of this stuff that's coming from this rainbow cult comes from the Noahide laws. Now, the Noahide laws apply to a certain very small sector of the community who then impose the Noahide laws for the masses onto you. Now, this is a very important point, but when we look at the more occult side of this, the more hidden side of it, because most of it is actually hidden. I mean, the change agents do what they do in plain sight, but the system that we're in and the way that the system is used to control you is misunderstood by many people. And those people who misunderstand it are often the people who are the victims of it. Now, the whole cult of the rainbow came about because of the covenant with God that after the deluge, there would never be another great catastrophe on the earth. And it was laid down through the 10 Commandments and then the Noahide laws. Now, I'm going to get into that, as I say, on a future show, because I don't want to get too mixed up with all this. But we have to look at where this rainbow is actually coming from. What's that?
I'd like to interview you on that one, if I can, on the Duck the System channel. Maybe
we'll
you'll
do
let
that.
me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because I
that.
want to get it all in order. I mean, these are a general chitter-chatter thing with very strong points, these shows. But that NHS thing with the rainbow and people putting rainbows on their windows is not a coincidence. That is a signal. That is a signal to the people who are putting this system in place that you are complying with it. Having a rainbow on your window is a signal to them that you are now in full compliance with the plan. It's got nothing to do with the NHS. It's to do with your consent. You have given your consent to be governed by a system you do not understand by putting a rainbow on your window. And people go, that's a conspiracy theory. That's because they don't read. That's because they don't know what this is about. That's because they don't know where it came from. Now, this sounds quite shocking to a lot of people. Yeah.
In response to one of you guys in the chat box that you said about earlier on, well, I understand where he's coming from, because I'm in a little, there's 7 houses here, and I'm the only one without a rainbow in my window. The only one, which is quite unnerving, really. So, yeah, I mean, if I get this thing going and I'm texting people, it might not be my immediate neighbours that are coming in. So, as you said earlier on, Mark, it's not perhaps your immediate neighbours, but we have got people within our community, perhaps the wider community, who are awake and understand enough to understand that they can do something here. They can stand in their own feet and they can stand in their own rights, and we can really prove.
Yes, nobody in chat box there, the person called Nobody, you're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. And we're not going to go into the depth of it tonight, but basically this is part of the communitarian system, and it's all done with your consent. You can say it's satanic, that's fine. It is at the highest level. But the point is that we have to see this as a system of management. All it's about is your consent and the control of you. And that's at a very simple level, all it's about. Once you stop consenting to that and start thinking for yourself, things do change. Things will change for you in your daily interactions, for instance. And we have to bring down, yes, a higher power to counteract that stuff. I do know all about this side of it. Don't talk to me about psychic attack. Don't talk to me about this stuff, because we've talked about it many times on many shows. And we're going to talk about it in many more shows. Well, the point is, there's different levels of this system. What level do you want to talk about? The level you can engage in on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, let's do that. Because all of these people who make things too occult aren't getting to the real crux of the problem. Yes, when we look at the Noahide laws and what they really mean, in effect, to the people who are not of a certain tribe, they are not good at all, and they are imposed with our consent, and we have to withdraw that consent. That consent has to be withdrawn. Very difficult when you go into a court, because the communitarian and Noahide laws work together. And let's just call it communitarianism. As Lark in Texas is in the chat box, have a good look at what he's putting down. He has a very good analytic way of explaining this. I'm trying to do it in a very simple way so that people can relate to how it's actually being played out in front of them. Because when we go into the bigger picture of things, we're talking about a system which seems overwhelmingly complicated to the majority of people. That's because they are not trained in how it works. In actual fact, the system that people are imposing upon themselves is very simple. It's absolutely simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. You can't get a global system of governance that works if it's complicated. It won't work. Yeah. So you have to have a simple system which will go into every country, into every jurisdiction, and can usurp that jurisdiction. And it has to be done in slightly different ways. For instance, Unlimited, look up them, UN Limited. It's not the United Nations, they're called Unlimited. They're in 100 countries. Look up Crown Agents. They're training your future leaders. Doesn't matter what country you're in, they're training your future leaders. Wild 11 conference this year, all right, they did it online. 50% of the Earth's land and seas going into basically private ownership or stewardship, okay? So all this is being done, and people don't know what's happening. So these people, like in this country, who are still going on about land rights and stuff like that, they have no idea what's happened in the past 40 to 50 years. They are absolutely ignorant to the way this has worked, and they are victims of it, and they think they are still in charge. That's exactly what happened to the aristocracy in this country. Ever since the Norman invasion, they've basically been on a plantation. And people in this country still think that they have these rights. You don't have these rights under the Sustainable Development Goals. Farmers are finding this. We're going to be rewilded. We're going to have Monsanto, the UN, corporations running everything. What do you think that COVID-19 is about? It's just a corporate takeover. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's corporations taking control of your life. That's all it is. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Back to you, Susie.
It really is. Wow, I don't know where to go from that, Mark. I mean, wow. I really don't know where to go from that. Gosh, individual rights are sacrificed for the common good.
Yes, that's absolutely right. But that doesn't mean that your rights have to be sacrificed for the common good, because your rights are community rights. This is what I'm saying. Someone said, well, what's the difference between communitarian and community? What I'm saying is the communitarian system, the totalitarian system, assumes you to be part of that community. It assumes you to be in favor of vaccination. It assumes you to agree to everything. If you don't agree to everything, then you're outside it. What happens, though, if thousands of people don't agree with it and they say, we're the community now, we're the community, we have community rights. Your community may have rights, but so does ours. And that's what they do to virtue signal through the UN. They will bring groups in, and you see this with a lot of these new age kind of events and festivals and these sort of quasi-religious groups, fake religious groups. What they do is they empower what they call indigenous people. These people are indigenous. They wear ponchos and silly bloody costumes and turn up at conferences, and they go Pachamama and talk about bollocks, basically. I've seen them. You can go and have a look at this online all day long. It's a complete crock, and it's absolutely there to take your mind off what's really going on. In other words, let's virtue signal to a fake community that doesn't exist, because the people who are having their land rights taken away from them are never represented, right? Only the useful idiots are represented. I spent years looking at these organizations, these new age organizations, these groups that were mentored by the United Nations, and they are all absolute dimwits and puppets. And they feed into the New Age agenda, which feeds into the middle classes, which feeds into, let's talk about Magna Carta and common law. In other words, feeds into going nowhere, a dead end, a cul-de-sac. You fail, they win. So there's no point doing it like that.
Yeah, there is a lot of that going on in this country at the moment. There is a lot of that going on, and it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad. People are holding on to things that are just not there anymore. That's how I see it anyway. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
That is just how I see it. Yeah, you know, they're holding on to things that are just not there. I mean, like we've discussed, these things weren't working 10 years ago. Why do they think they're going to work now? They're just not. And it's been proven. And they're still standing there and saying, no, but you know, I don't stand under you while they're being tasered and dragged off and having the car taken off them and God knows what.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I stand here today as a free man under common law, which means I can urinate on the rear left tire of my conveyance, and there is nothing you can do about it, officer. And this is the sort of thing that we were talking about 10 years ago, slightly tongue-in-cheek. Yes, we went into a court, we put the birth certificate in the dock and said it's a legal fiction. Oh, leave it there. We'll do it without you. We don't need you here. It's an administrative court, by the way. If you're not going to represent yourself, we'll do it. That's how it works. Yeah. So, in other words, this stuff I've talked about really for many years. And it is actually quite frustrating, Susie, when these people come along and start these common law groups, and they're getting loads of money given to them. People are being bloody not only energy harvested, but having their pockets drained by these charlatans who know nothing about anything. You know, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It truly is, and I know, I agree with you. I see a lot of it, and it's a bit crazy. But I shall look forward to talking to Casey Whalen, and we can get going in this good country of ours.
Yes. So I think the message tonight is to find people that you know. If it's 5 people that you know, that you trust, that's all you need. Don't get infiltrated and start to have some aims, because this is a demoralization process. And most people now are demoralized. This country is absolutely depressing at the moment. It's really depressing, because when did these little protests start? June, was it? Nothing's happened. We're in December. Nothing. Not one victory. oh, let's not pay our fines. Well, you shouldn't pay the fines. Don't pay the fines. Let them build up. It's administrative. They're going to give them to debt collectors anyway. You're going to have debt collectors knocking on your door in 4 or 5 months' time. Don't worry about that, because if you've got these community groups set up, you might be able to do something about it. That's the whole point, that to take back your power, you have to know where your power really is and what you are in the system. I mean, I've done countless hours of stuff on this. There's a thing called systems of law in that. If you go back into our back catalogue, you will find dependable stuff. There's no fly-by-night nonsense on there that is going to lead you down a blind alley. Everything on the website I've tried out myself. Every single thing on there, including finding my birth certificate on Fidelity Investments. I've done it all. It doesn't mean anything. 10 years ago, there's people going, I'm going to cash in my bond. There's always somebody there to help you. They've always got a website. You always have to sign up. They harvest all your information, sell it on, and guess what happens? Nothing. Common law court, where's that going to get you? Oh, sign up on the website. Oh, he'll sell all this data on to other people. Had enough of all this. It's nonsense. It was nonsense 10 years ago. It's nonsense now. People who fall for that are going to be basically victims. And what there are is a lot of charlatans out there who are going, yeah, but you don't know the ins and outs of it. We're going to have to teach you. We're going to have to teach you the process. No, if you don't know the process, don't do it. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Simple as that. Because all of this stuff about templates and all the rest of it, I mean, you know, well, ever since I put a commercial lien on Kent Police last week, they haven't been round. We're winning.
Yeah.
And that's about really the strength of the argument, I think, that goes for this stuff. Is there anything else, Susie, that you want to get into, or just before I just going to finish off?
No, I don't think so. I think that's about it, really. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Casey and getting something going. Yeah, like you say, get a few people, a few good people, and we can start this up. I'm sure we can.
Definitely.
I'm sure we can.
Definitely.
And instead of protesting, we'll lobby. Let's be lobbyists rather than protesters. Yeah.
Well, it's about the community, the empowered community. Remember, always describe yourself as the community, because that's what the other side are doing. They're calling themselves the community and presuming that you're included in their tyranny. Well, wait a minute. Let's form the community. We're the community. I thought you were the servants.
Well,
we're the community.
Not in my village, actually. I'm definitely excluded from their community in my village.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to read something out that's on the website. That's it.
Yeah.
We are an unaffiliated group of local residents concerned about the lack of democratic process in local government planning and policy, or wherever, doesn't matter. We will remain unaffiliated as individuals acting collectively and within the law towards a truly inclusive democratic process where all voices are heard in our vibrant community. Yeah. We are not affiliated with any group or organization whatsoever. We do not agree with arriving at a consensus through being steered into predetermined outcomes by trained facilitators, either working for the council or public-private partnerships. We deem this to be against the public interest and an affront to democracy, and above all, against the common good. There you go.
So I want everyone to write that down. Everybody write that down.
Well, it's actually on the website, and it's the...
Well, they can read it from the website and write it down.
A sister article to tonight's show. It's called Empower Your Community. It's a short thing, but all of these articles from now on are going to be quite short. It links to the Communitarian agenda. Go to Lark in Texas. Lark is in the chat box tonight, but have a look at Lark in Texas.
Really good. Thank you, Lark. Really good.
Yes. Have a look at his stuff. Have a look at that article, Big Society Change Agents. It was written over 5 years ago, but it's been updated, and it will tell you exactly what COVID-19 is doing in your local community now, what climate change was doing before, COVID's doing it now, but 1,000 miles an hour faster. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. Do have a look at the website. Join us on Sunday, 9:30 p.m. I might not be doing the RBN shows for a little while because I've got other things to do. Also, I'm not going to be doing talks for a while because I've got really tired with what I've been working on, and I've got so much to deal with. I've got a backlog of stuff, so I'm willing to do things on StreamYard or Zoom or whichever your platform of choice if you want to talk. And I do get some great people phoning me. I've had a few today, and these people are very incisive and very sensible and very determined. So that's great. It means that we're getting to the right people. So the people who want new age fluff and no solutions and want to live in fantasy land, there's 1,000 people that they can listen to. But I'm really pleased with the standard of people who are listening to the show. Otherwise, I think I'd have given up by now.
Quality, not quantity. That's what we want.
Yes. Hit the like button, share it, help us out. Go to windowsontheworld.net if you want to help to keep us going. And yes, I do have a small fund for chickpeas. We don't need anything for court cases at the moment, though.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Mark. Really great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susie. It's cheered me up because before the show, I didn't think we were going to get on here because of the streaming and all the rest of it. And thanks, everyone in chat. It's great. It really cheers me up as well to say hello, Steve in Manchester. Hello, everybody else there. Huffman Aviation. Lark, he's talking to Lark in Texas. Everybody else in chat. And yes, everybody out there. Since last week, me balls have dropped. Well, it's about time. I am 57. All right, then. That's a little in-joke.
No, you are. And that brings me to, I do believe there might be a little comedy show on the horizon. Yes.
Oh, yeah. We have our correspondent Malcolm from the Common Law Court of Great Britain without the United Kingdom. And he'll be joining us on Sunday's show because he's going around the country and he's having, he's having a great effect at shooting himself in the foot. So that's great. Yeah, we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everybody. I really enjoyed that. It's actually cheered me up tremendously. Good. Thanks a lot.
Good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.